I'm Scott Hansen. I'm a professor at Southern Utah University, and this module of SolidWorks will include instruction on how to create an offset work plane through a solid part. So we'll move our cursor to the upper left portion of the screen, left click on the little white piece of paper, left click on Part, left click on OK. We'll left click on the Sketch tab, left click on the Sketch icon, then we'll left click on the front plane. When it comes highlighted, left click once, then we'll right click and left click on Display Grid, and we'll just draw out a very simple part that we will use to create an offset work plane in. So we'll move our cursor to the line command, left click one time, and we'll left click and just drag a line that looks similar to what is shown. Then we'll right click, left click on Select. We'll left click on Smart Dimension, and we'll dimension each side of this. I'm just going to enter a 1, and we can enter a 1 for that dimension. We can enter a 2. Up there on top, we'll enter a 1 for the right side, and that should be everything we need. Throw one here on the side just in case. Then we'll right click, left click on Select, right click again, left click on Exit Sketch. Now I'm going to move my cursor up to the Features tab and left click one time, and then we'll left click on Extrude. And because I still had the sketch active, I didn't have to reselect the sketch. If nothing shows up in the Boss Extrude dialog box here, then simply left click on one of the lines for the sketch. So we'll enter a 5 for the extrude distance, left click on the green check mark, and we'll scroll it out with the wheel here. Then I'll left click out here in the workspace to turn that sketch off, the original sketch. And then we'll push the mouse wheel down and rotate the model around so that it's facing this way. And we'll move our cursor to the very side of the model. When it becomes highlighted, we're going to right click and we'll left click on Sketch or New Sketch, and we're going to place a point. So we'll move our cursor to the upper left portion of the screen. Right underneath the little A is the point icon. We'll left click on Point. We'll bring our cursor down. Just float our cursor along the bottom line somewhere. Don't hook it to the midpoint because we're going to dimension it. So we'll left click right there, and then we'll place another one back here. Again, don't hook it to the midpoint. Then we'll right click, left click on Select. Then I'll move my cursor up to the Smart Dimension icon. We'll left click on Smart Dimension. We'll left click on the very edge of the part towards the back. And I'll move the cursor over the first point that was created. When it becomes highlighted, we'll left click once. We'll bring that dimension down and we'll enter a 3. And we'll repeat this same procedure and place a dimension on the second point. And we'll do 1.75, then hit enter. Then we'll left click on the green check mark. We'll right click, left click on Exit Sketch. Then we'll move the cursor, push the mouse wheel down and rotate the part around. And we'll put the sketch right on this surface that's on the right side of the part. Once it becomes highlighted, we'll right click, left click on Sketch. We'll left click on the point icon again. And we'll move our cursor about right in here, just almost to the very edge of the part, but not quite. And we'll left click on the green check mark. We'll left click on Smart Dimension, and we'll left click on the very edge of the part, and then on the point itself, and we'll drag that out, and we'll enter a 1. Then we'll left click on the green check mark. We'll right click, left click on exit sketch. We'll push the mouse wheel down and rotate the part around. We still want to have access to all 3 points. I'm going to left click on the Features tab. Then we'll move our cursor over here to the Reference Geometry icon. We'll drop the arrow down underneath Reference Geometry and we'll left click on Plane. And then we'll move our cursor to the first point. We'll left click on the first point. Move our cursor to the second point. Left click on the second point. We'll move our cursor to the third point and left click on the third point. And then we will left click on the green check mark. If you push the mouse wheel down, you'll see that there is an offset work plane that's been created in the middle of this part. And now we will create a sketch on that part to remove some material. First, let's add a hole to the back of this part just for some added effect. So I'm going to move the cursor around. I'm going to move my cursor over the back side of the part. We'll right click, left click on Sketch. We'll left click on the circle command and see if we can get both midpoints right there. Then left click, right click, select, left click on Smart Dimension, and we'll enter 1.5. Then we'll right click, select, right click, exit sketch. We'll left click on the Features tab, left click on Extruded Cut, and it's plugged in the value from the last cut extrude, so we'll left click on the green check mark and we'll left click out in the workspace. So now we have a hole that when we cut part of this material off using our offset plane will create an interesting looking part. So now we'll move our cursor over the offset plane. When it becomes highlighted, we'll right click and left click on Sketch or New Sketch, and then we're just going to simply draw a very large rectangle and do an extrude cut away from the part. So we'll left click on the rectangle command and we'll draw something fairly large out here, and left click one time, right click, select. We'll push the mouse wheel down so we can kind of get an idea of how this part is going to be cut. And it looks like the rectangle is more than big enough. So we'll right click, exit sketch. We'll left click on the Features tab. We'll left click on Extrude Cut. And because that sketch is already highlighted, it's already given us a preview about what it is going to cut away. And it's plugged in our 5 from the Extrude Cut, which we don't need it quite that large, but we can leave it because we're just doing a cut from some material. We'll left click on the green check mark and you'll see that we basically have done an extruded cut that cuts away most of this part and an offset plane. Now if we don't want to view the plane, we simply move our cursor over to the part tree on the left, and right next to plane 1 we right click and we left click on hide the little glasses, and that will hide that plane. We still have to have it active or our extruded cut will disappear, but that is basically what we have is a part with the plane that's been intersected through the middle. And that concludes this module on creating an offset plane through a solid part.